Hello, everyone, and welcome.
Hello.
We're going to do the show in this voice today.
Yeah.
I'm getting old, and I watched Haven last night.
Oh yeah, Haven. How's that?
Haven's back, yeah. Still at it. Last half. It's one of those stupid things where it's like it's the last season, but they're still calling it season 5, so it's the last half of the last season. Whatever.
Yeah.
It's still good. I like it.
Yeah, my wife's a huge Haven fan. I don't know if I've seen enough of it to give an opinion, but
it's good. It's worth your time. I mean, and I know how it goes. The lists are always way too long.
I have such a list of things to watch. But I need to get some good sci-fi like stuff in me.
Well, and it's based on the Stephen King short story, so it's not really fully Stephen King, but there's some nice references here and there, especially in the opening credits.
I love me some Stephen King.
Yeah. All right. Well, enough of what did Tom watch last night while his wife was watching The Voice. Let's do Daily Tech News Show.
Okay, Google. How can I support Daily Tech News Show?
You can show your support for Daily Tech News Show by donating to their Patreon. Visit patreon.com/acedtech. That's patreon.com/ACEDTECT.
This is the Daily Tech News for Wednesday, October 14th, 2015. I'm Tom Merritt. Joining me today, because it's Wednesday, Mr. Scott Johnson, man about frog pants, host of The Instance, The Morning Stream, and more. How are you, sir?
I'm fine. I love Wednesdays. They're one of my favorite days of the week because that's the day I am educated about technology in ways that I'm not normally educated about them. It's because I come on here and I listen to you pontificate about stories that matter to us.
Pontificate is exactly what I do. Let me tell you a thing, Scott Johnson. No, actually, today we're both going to pontificate a little bit. I hope it's insightful about input devices and whether we can get along without screens or not. An interesting story in the Wall Street Journal about this that we're going to riff on. But let's start with some headlines. A jury in the United States state of Wisconsin has ruled that Apple infringed a patent on improving processor efficiency, maybe even efficiency, held by the Wisconsin Alumni Research Foundation. Reuters reports Apple's A7, A8, and A8X processors were all found to infringe. That means that the Wisconsin Alumni Research Foundation, aka WARF, you need to keep your security going. Anyway, they can sue again about the A9, or at least put pressure on Apple to settle. The trial will now determine the damages, which U.S. District Judge William Conley has ruled could be up to $862.4 million. You're going to see that line in the headlines. Doesn't mean they will be fined $862.4 million, but it could be as much as that. You think Apple's going to appeal that ruling, Scott?
Yeah, I think that they might.
I think they might.
If this was some closed-door $2 million damages kind of thing, we might never hear about it, and it would just get swept under the rug. But when you're pushing potentially near $1 billion, you're talking about a pretty big stack of cash, and also, you know, a pretty big bruise to the eye if they can't win an appeal here. Like, there's no way Apple doesn't appeal this. Whether they ultimately persevere or not, I don't know. That's a lot of their chips, and that's in a lot of devices, and a lot of sort of, you know, I don't know how much it gets to the general public. That's a lot of PR headaches. So, yeah, they'll appeal it.
And Apple has a tradition of fighting to the end, right? The WARF also sued Intel, and Intel settled. You know, Intel didn't settle right away, but eventually, before it got to a trial, Intel's like, okay, fine, let's figure this out. And we don't know what that settlement was. Lots of rumors about it, but they were willing. And this is Intel, right? They're not going to give in that easy either. So Apple probably knew they were going to lose this, but they're just going to. I think what they like to do is make it a precedent that they have a big pile of cash, and if you're going to sue them about a patent, you're going to spend a lot of money doing it.
Yeah, their pockets are deep. Well, AT&T is close to launching a feature called Number Sync, which would allow its customers to share one phone number among many devices, which is pretty interesting. Recode reports the feature has been tested under the codename Cascade since last year. AT&T expects it to launch on its first device fairly soon and said many existing smartphones should be able to support Number Sync with software upgrades, though it doesn't look like they've gone into detail as to what those devices are. But I would assume Android devices will, maybe even Apple devices? No, maybe?
Yeah, no. Basically they're saying there's no reason any device shouldn't be able to support this. We're going to start with one soon, and we'll keep rolling it out to more of them. I immediately want to get greedy though and say, okay, this is great if I'm an AT&T customer, and maybe I want to have a couple of phones. I'm not one of the people who does this, but a lot of people do carry 2 phones. And so I want to have the number shared across them or shared across other devices, maybe that I can put a phone number on. And I get that, and I guess I wouldn't want to have multiple carriers, but for some reason immediately in my head I was like, ooh, what if I could have one phone number across multiple carriers, which I imagine that's never going to happen.
No,
maybe for really good reasons too.
Probably not, but that does sound like the more appealing thing I wish they were working on. But the only thing I would say is this doesn't apply to me at all. Like, this doesn't interest me in terms of wanting to have multiple devices and having the same phone number on them. One phone is good enough for me, but they must have some data to suggest that this is a feature people want or have been at least asking for.
Oh yeah, I mean, and there's plenty of services that do this already, but they don't do it at the telephone company level. So there's always a little bit of bugginess to them. There's a little, maybe a little bit of lag or delay. And what AT&T can promise, and we'll see if Number Sync actually delivers on this promise, is seamless. Like, your phone number is on that phone, and you don't have to switch it back and forth. You don't have to forward it. You don't have to mask it. Each phone natively has that number on the carrier's network.
Interesting. Well, we'll see. I don't know. 2-phone Tom, we'll call you.
Yeah, Tommy Two Hands. He's got a phone in each hand. Smart lock maker August announced new products, including HomeKit support for their new version of their main lock, meaning you can tell Siri to unlock your door, a $79 accessory keyboard for those friends who don't have smartphones, and a $199 doorbell with a video camera. It also announced a platform to allow several home delivery, maintenance, and cleaning services to allow service providers entry into homes when you're not there, with your approval, of course. Products can be ordered today for shipping in 4 to 8 weeks. But most people are chatting about this idea of like, oh, so Sears is going to come and repair my washer or deliver me a new laundry machine, and I could just let them in with my August lock, I guess.
That's an assumption I would be slow to make, that I would want the Sears guys bringing my new couch over to just have carte blanche while I'm not there. Like, that is a very strange assumption to make.
And I wonder how much of it is an overreaction, because plenty of people have services like cleaning, like house cleaning, where they give a key to somebody and they're vetted, and they say, okay, you can come in with the key. And so this is no different than that. If you're going to have a cleaning service have access to your house, this is just an easier way to do that. But suddenly when it's things like maintenance and delivery, you're like, I kind of want to be there anyway.
Sure.
So
it's a strange, if they're not touting that as part of the marketing, then it's much ado about nothing. But if they're really pushing the idea that the pizza guy can come in and make his way to the kitchen and you're not there, that's very...
I don't think the pizza guy's a good example, Scott. Your pizza gets cold.
That's true. You're going to want to be there. That's my whole point. For most of what we're talking about, you really want to be there.
Well, I guess if I trusted the delivery guys, yeah, right? And maybe it's awful that I don't. It would be great if I ordered a sofa and said, yeah, take away the old sofa, bring the new sofa, and I don't have to be there. In concept, that's fantastic, because I don't have to be there for the sofa. The only reason I would be there is to make sure they don't ding things up, and forget even like people stealing things, just maybe not putting it in the right place, or there's always confusion about stuff like that.
Yeah, they just case in the joint. You just don't know what's happening. I'm a little more paranoid about this stuff than I probably should be, but I wouldn't mind if my sister-in-law, who comes over all the time and has a key, if she could get in this way. That makes perfect sense.
Well, and she already can, right? You can authorize guests. I've used one of these before at a guest's house. And you just have to have the phone on you. But this is saying, like, there's already services out there, like Sears is one of them, that's saying, yeah, we're now part of August, so as long as you authorize us, we'll be able to use that.
And finally, I would say, when I was a teenager, there were some kids I knew that would have loved to have fed a dog or some cats a bunch of laxatives and then lock them in the house that they had access to, and then you'd come home.
Yeah, don't give them access.
Don't give them access.
Yeah.
An announcement on the Chromium blog happened that desktop notifications for Windows, Linux, and OS X are being removed, or will be removed. Chrome will continue to support the web push standard, which it added last spring. The notification center will remain on Chrome OS.
This is a funny story, because there's a bunch of people like, I can't believe they're taking away the notifications thing. And Google's like, nobody used it. And it was confusing, because there's already this other system for notifications that's cross-platform, and so we're going to support that. instead. We're going to continue to support web push standard. It's a better thing for everybody. But I guess leaving it on Chrome OS is the one place where I'd say, oh, well, if that's your operating system, then yeah, you'd want your notifications to be that because there's no other place for them to go. But it feels like this is a no-brainer if nobody's really using that other system. And you will be able to continue to use it because you just got a Chromebook, right?
I did. I was, long story short, I was in the market for something inexpensive and mainly focused on kind of everyday tasks like email management and doc management and calendar stuff and to-dos and that kind of stuff. Just kind of a good portable take it with me kind of way of getting that kind of work done. And I've got an older MacBook that I'm going to give to my daughter for some of her classes. She needs them for some video editing. That thing's getting a little older anyway, so it's probably about time to upgrade. So I thought, well, let's get something inexpensive. And my overall impression, this isn't a full review or anything. I've only had it for a day and a half, but is that it's, if you're expecting the peppiest device in the world, my Toshiba Chromebook 2 is not that. Does it run everything it's supposed to pretty well? Absolutely. And it kind of fills that need. If you know what you need from a Chromebook, they're there to serve. And if you think you're going to get, I'm going to play a bunch of video games on here or run Windows-based programs or do anything of the sort, you'll be sorely disappointed and undereducated. But if you know what a Chromebook is for and what Chrome OS is supposed to do for you, I think these are pretty rad. And it's going to fill the need I need for a very small entry price compared to what I could have paid for a new notebook. So far so good. We'll see how I do over the next couple of days. But I'm sort of optimistically impressed thus far.
Yeah, I can't wait to check back with you in a few weeks after you've really had a chance to sink in and use it, see how it's working for you. Captain Kipper shared an EFF post reporting that the JPEG Privacy and Security Group is considering backporting DRM to legacy JPEG images. There's currently a professional version of JPEG called JPEG 2000 that supports JPSec, but there is no DRM on the normal implementation of JPEG. And the EFF says this could prevent copying and reposting of images without permission. EFF thinks that's a bad thing. People wanting to protect their images think it's a good thing. The EFF supports a system that allows optional signing and encryption of metadata in the JPEG, but they don't want to make it harder for you to download an image, make fair use of an image, copy an image over on your desktop. It could make a lot of things really difficult. Imagine if all images are subject to the same DRM as videos, where suddenly you're like, oh, I can't load that image right now because the server's down or it doesn't think I have permission. Guess I have to log in to see my JPEGs.
Yeah, it's kind of a mess. And as somebody who is subject to people taking his JPEGs and using them places without accrediting me or telling anybody where they got it from, and then some cases replacing signatures with their own. This happened to me on multiple occasions. People try to sell stuff with my artwork on it. I kind of just roll my eyes anymore at it because it's just kind of, well, whatever. And I usually ask for a takedown on the site. Who's got it up will take it down. So it's not that big of a deal. You can kind of police that stuff. But I understand the desire for people to want to try to keep that stuff. But this feels like genie out of the bottle to me. You can't go back now. I think it's too late for us to go back and say, hey, this JPEG standard that we use everywhere on everything, it's got good compression, good looks, good everything, all the stuff it does, small, all the reasons we use JPEGs as a standard on the web and elsewhere. We can't just go back and go, all right, out of the pool, everybody, we're changing the way all of this works. It's not going to happen. There are way too many complications with a visual web, at least at the state it's at in 2015. So I'm with the EFF on this. There's probably a compromise somewhere. I like the metadata idea, but man, even as somebody who gets his stuff stolen all the time, it is a nightmare the other way.
Yeah, and as Beatmaster more snarkily put it, you can just put it in an iframe.
Yeah. See?
You don't need to change the spec of JPEG.
These snarky internet guys. Recode reports Uber is expanding its same-day delivery service, and they're calling it Uber Rush, from trials in New York City to include San Francisco and Chicago, often cities that get these expansions. The price of delivery will range from $5 to $7, calculated by distance. Uber targets smaller businesses and restaurants who will have enable a Uber button that shows up if delivery is available. Businesses can sign up with Uber or through sites like Shopify or BigCommerce. Or I guess Uber will take 25% of the fee in San Francisco and in Chicago, and 20% in New York, with the rest going to the courier. So this is, we talked about this morning on TMS. This is Uber's chance to take it to the next level, I guess.
Yeah, everybody's getting into this quick delivery service, right? So we have all the Postmates and DoorDashes and Grubhubs of the world doing it for various things, mostly restaurants, but Postmates is doing it for all kinds of things. You have Google and Amazon doing it for products, some in collaboration with big names like Target and Macy's. And Uber is saying, you know what, we're going to work with the smaller people. We're going to help the restaurants who aren't part of these other delivery situations, and we'll work with the folks who sell through Shopify and don't run their own back ends. It's a niche that I think is smart for them to sell, and they're trying to undercut by making their fees down to $5 to $7, which, by the way, I think Postmates was the one who dropped their lowest tier fee to $2.50 today after this announcement. But everybody's delivering things now. On the morning stream this morning, you had a thought that you didn't want to share at the time. What was the wrinkle in that cheese?
All right, the wrinkle in the cheese, which I did call it that this morning for I don't know why. I really have no explanation for the phrase, but it's this. So Amazon has local same-day delivery service stuff that they're rolling out and doing in different places, and it's varying degrees of availability depending on where you live. And so I understand that they've already got their feet in that pool. I just think there's an opportunity for Amazon above all others to not just make it stuff from Amazon and stuff from local warehousing and stuff from local providers that they have contracts with, but a chance for Amazon to be the next Grubhub or the next Uber, what do they call Uber Rush or whatever, where they are the name you think of when it comes to stuff you order online and get in a couple of days and have free shipping for, and the company you can call and say, I want 2 Jimmy John subs and a couple of Cokes, please, and have it over here in 10 minutes. Like, why are they not out on the forefront of this and just becoming that brand that just brings you everything? And it's surprising to me that they, A, haven't, but I would not be surprised if they, B, might be working on something like that beyond what they're doing now with same-day delivery and their other grocery stuff and some of the other things they do right now. Download
the Prime Now app and get free delivery from popular Seattle restaurants for a limited time.
There you go. See, already in a place, it's happening. Help, it's happening. And my wrinkle in the cheese is Amazon will not, I guess, they will not take all of this expansion sitting down. They want a piece of this pie. It's the kind of thing they will look
deliver you a piece of that pie.
Indeed, and I'm not even so sure they wouldn't be averse to getting into the actual Uber business itself. If all that stuff can suss itself out legally around the country, Amazon-based pick up and drive you around taxi service doesn't sound that crazy to me. Maybe they may not want it. That may seem like a bridge too far. I don't know. But this whole thing is bubbling kind of around them, and I just don't see them not trying to make sure they're in there. It's like Apple not making a watch, or Google not making an OS back in 2008 for phones.
Los Angeles and Orange County customers can now use Prime Now for delivery of local favorites from Sprouts, Bristol Farms, Sprinkles, 99 Ranch, and Fresh and Easy.
How about, let's see, Prime Now, Salt Lake City.
It basically, I mean, you're not wrong. I think Amazon's ahead of you, though. Like, they have been really pushing Prime Now. They've been pushing delivery. This Prime Now has got 1 hour delivery. They are definitely in this game with Uber, and they're trying to stay ahead. I forget Uber. Uber's way behind. Uber's trying to carve out a niche that isn't already dominated by the Amazons, Googles, Postmates, etc. of the world.
Well, then the cheese was already semi-wrinkled. I've just come in and just put a little bit in there.
You just want a little wrinklier. That's all. A little more. A little more. Always looking for a little more. Researchers at French government agency ANSI have developed a way to silently trigger voice commands on smartphones from up to 16 feet away. According to Wired, the system works on any Android or iPhone device with the headphones plugged in, and those headphones have to have a built-in mic. So what the hack does is uses the headphone wires as an antenna to convert radio waves into electrical signals that appear to be either audio or signals from that headphone to the phone's OS. So even if you don't have voice recognition activated, if your OS responds to you pressing the mic on your headphones, they can mimic that. The laptop they use to do it runs USRP software-defined radio GNU radio and needs an amplifier and an antenna, but that's it. Range is about 6.5 feet, although if they use some bigger batteries, and they said they need to have a van to fit the batteries in, they can get it up to 16 feet.
A van, and you've gained another 10 feet. Wow.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
So, places where you can park really close, I guess. I don't know. I mean, it's less about, a lot of people tend to jump to the practical, like, well, how can you do that? This is less about somebody's going to do this to you tomorrow and more about, hey, this is a vulnerability that we've caught. Let's nail it down before people start taking advantage of it and figure out how to do it even farther.
Yeah, there's kind of an old school thing going on here, which I kind of like. I like the idea that it's just basically using radio waves. And if you had the van and enough battery power, hack me from 16 feet, bro. I dare you. I shouldn't say that on the air.
No, never say that. Also, because the other thing is you may not notice it's happening. It's radio waves. You aren't going to hear anything. There's nothing audible. The only way you would know it's happening is if you're looking at the phone and you see things started to happen.
Yeah, which is like, read me the phone number of my whatever. I mean, they could they could get all kinds of stuff. So yeah, please don't hack me. Don't hack me, bro, is what I meant to say.
Please.
Recode reports HP and 3M plan to build privacy protection screens into a new line of business laptops. This is just next year. Screens restrict viewing to a person looking head on. You can turn it off if you want to and share the view of the screen with others. But that to me is the selling point. If you couldn't turn that off, I would not like that. If there was like the perfect sort of 3DS method of I can only look at it right here for it to be perfect, that's a problem.
Eileen has one of those sheets that she puts over her laptop when she's working on something that I shouldn't see, which happens. And this would be great if she was able to like just turn it off and on. So when she wanted me to show me that Taylor Swift video of her describing her writing process, she could just turn it off, show it to me instead of having to slide something in and out. The next web reports on a proof of concept photographic technology from Dartmouth's Thayer School of Engineering called the Quanta Image Sensor. The idea is to have smaller pixels that each sense one photon, improving low-light photography, among other things. The resolution goal is 1 billion pixels in a normal-sized sensor. PhD candidate Jaiju Ma worked on the project with Professor Eric Fossum. He's the guy who invented the CMOS sensor used in most digital cameras today. If there's a digital camera in your phone, it's probably using that CMOS sensor he invented. They are co-authors of a paper on their invention, which is published in IEEE Electron Devices Letters.
So as a practical matter, though, 1 billion pixels per normal size sensor. Saying you take, let's say you have an SLR Canon camera and you have the sensor size, that's 1 billion pixels there. What does that just translate to? Just more megapixels in terms of size?
No. That's what they're saying is we can actually sense each photon, and so we're actually capturing all the data. It's not pixels sharing like multiple photons of light. So it's
the pixels now, the way that they interpret each other in some ways.
Right.
They're filling in a lot of stuff, I guess is what the bottom line is. So this is interesting. I'm more interested to see how much the human eye can detect of this kind of
well, the low light thing is going to be the most evident place where you take a picture now with a high megapixel camera. Sometimes you still just can't get enough light to tell what's there. If there's any light at all, this is going to be able to see it.
It should literally eliminate noise.
Pictures of the moon, Scott.
The moon, you tell me. All right, great. Samsung unveiled the Tizen. Am I saying that right? I hope so. Tizen? Anyway.
Tizen, yeah.
Its second Tizen phone with a 5-inch 720 display, 8-megapixel rear camera, and HSPA Plus support. The Tizen T3 comes to India.
Z3, that's my typo.
Oh, whoops, Z3.
Z3, actually in India, probably.
Yeah, Z3. To India for 849 rupees.
Nope, so 8,490 rupees.
Well, that's a lot. 8,490 rupees. You're going to be playing Legend of Zelda for hours to get that many. But bump. That's $130 US, by the way, and that's later this month.
There you go. More Tizen phones coming, and they're really pushing the glamour aspect of this one, even if it is affordable. OnePlus has announced an event called OnePlus X taking place in London on October 29th with a companion event in Beijing, according to Engadget. An FCC filing for a 5.5-inch OnePlus phone was spotted earlier this month, so maybe that's this. But even though they haven't finished shipping all of the second phone, they're getting right on to a third.
And everyone loves the OnePlus, so that's exciting stuff. One more big date for you. Blizzard announced today it will admit a small number of tested people into a closed beta for their new game, as yet to be unreleased, and also their first new IP in years, maybe even decade and a half, since we got our first new IP from Blizzard Entertainment. This is Overwatch, their brand new shooter. This happens on October 27th in the Americas for Windows users. One would suspect it'll roll out past this region soon. But here's the thing I just want to say about that real quick. They're on the heels of BlizzCon, their big yearly event. Tom and I will be there. They usually reserve big announcements for a big stage presentation in the opening ceremonies. Last year was actually talking about Overwatch. In years past, it's other games, other expansions, whatever. This year, they have literally burned all of the known quantities early, including beta access, which I kind of thought they were going to hold till stage. I'm a little bit surprised by it. Now I have zero idea what they're going to talk about on stage, and all of us are just hoping it's not another Geek Is thing. But nobody knows, so either there's something big going to happen, or it's going to be the most disappointing opening ceremonies in the history of BlizzCon. But one way or the other, before that date, before November, at least a few of us, I think me and you probably, will be playing Overwatch beta. And maybe you.
They said they'll go into a wider beta after BlizzCon, so after November 7th sometime, you might look out for it there.
International.
I expect them to just show the Warcraft movie as the keynote.
Well, that would be pretty cool. Like
just the whole movie, just for free.
That is one of the theories, that they're just going to focus hardcore on the movie, and it'll be the trailer and some people coming out and the director.
No, I mean the whole movie.
Yeah, I know you want the whole film. I doubt they're going to do that.
They're
However,
not gonna do that.
if they did, people would lose their minds. I really don't know, but it does feel like maybe this is the year they focus on that, and then the rest of it's esports and fun and good times, like it always is. But they have spent all their video game news already.
Yeah. No, it's going to be movie and esports. I listened to The Instance.
Yeah, you know what's up.
That's what I took out of that episode. Let's go check it out. Theinstance.net. Hey, and submit stories to us on our subreddit. It helps us put together a lineup every day. dailytechnewsshow.reddit.com, and that is a look at the headlines. That's not the headline music. That's the headline music. All right. Screen-free interfaces. H. James Wilson, Managing Director of IT Business Research, and Paul R. Dougherty, CTO from Accenture, their research firm, were writing in the Wall Street Journal, kind of sharing some of their insights. I think the idea here was like, hey, this is how many, we're on top of the trends. You might want to buy some Accenture research. But there's really no conflict of interest here. They're just giving their opinions. And they have done a study that ranked screens third in popularity behind controlling things through some sort of invisible way, not having to look at anything or touch anything, or voice control. They go through in their article several things on the horizon that might replace screens for us to interface with devices. Ambient information. So maybe they describe a cube that changes color with significant events like high priority emails coming in or something. Haptics are an example of that, with your watch giving you a little haptic bump to let you know, oh, you got an email from Scott. You got a text message from Eileen. You might want to check that out. There's gesture control. So the Kinect is an example of that. Maybe not the greatest example, but it's an example of that. They talk about connected paper, where you can actually just in a cardboard box, touch the box to find out where it is in its shipping cycle, or even to alert the shipping cycle that it's at this location now, without having to turn on a screen or pull out a phone or anything. Wearables like the Google Ring, that they've had that in development for a couple of years now, so I'm not sure how real it is anymore, but it would be able to act as a second factor of authentication for you. They talk about wearables embedded in your clothing, a smart vest that was really impressive, that could help the deaf hear things by learning their patterns as the vest tapped them on their chest. There's automated responses, things like lighting, heating, cooling that just kind of happen. And here's the thing, Scott, that they say at the end of the story. Let me get your impression on this. There will certainly be a learning curve, but if these new interfaces catch on, the flat screen display could become a blip in the gadget timeline.
See, this is where, and you may agree with me or not, I don't know. I guess we'll find out. But I think that is a little laced with hyperbole. The idea that screens are going to be a blip in the gadget timeline is not likely. It may one day become a thing of the past, but we will always display something somewhere. And I would argue even a throbbing light in a cube on your desk to tell you that a very important email came through is a form of a screen. I know it isn't a screen that is then versatilely used for lots of other functions and tasks. It may only have this one job, but it's still a physical manifestation of an indication, and you have to respond to that. So if we get away from even that argument, the idea that screens are going to just be this, oh man, can you believe one time we used to use screens? I don't buy it. There's way too many other things we do in life besides get notifications, besides have password authentication or whatever gesture controls we want to do. There's a million things we need to do. People are not going to stop writing. People are not going to stop making journals, and they're not going to stop communicating with each other in ways that require some kind of screen. Now, that screen may be a foldable piece of paper that you lay out and suddenly it lights up and can display whatever you want. It could be a holographic projection in the middle of the air that you look at. Those are all possible, but they're just an evolution and an iteration on a screen. Screens are just the best form of that we have right now, where we can construct a lot of visual data and information in a way that we can see it or sense it. I don't see that as like, oh, well, it's this stopgap measure until we get to the next big thing. Unless the next big thing is projected into my brain, then we can have a conversation. But until that happens, we need these manifestations outside of our own neurological confines, and right now screens are those.
Well, and I think they may be overstating it here in saying screens will go away, because that's basically saying visual stimuli will no longer be necessary, and that's just not true. As you point out, that cube requires visual stimuli, and sometimes we'll need richer information than just a green or a red light. So I think I totally agree with you that screens won't disappear, but I think what they're probably saying in truth is we've over-relied on screens. We want to put a screen into everything, and sometimes you don't need a screen. Now, I accidentally asked a horrible question on Twitter when I said, like, give me examples of interfaces that don't use screens. When I meant, like, give me examples of future interfaces, ways we could interact with devices. But what people showed me was, well, there's your laundry machine, your microwave, your car with your steering wheel. There's lots of ways to interact without having a screen. And I think that might be the real point here is we kind of use screens for everything, especially since touchscreens came along, because it's like, hey, the visual response of a device is the screen. What if we can interact directly with that? And that was a great advance. But what about places where we don't need the screen? And I think there are those kind of places. And I think that vest is a fantastic example of that, because we're stuck in the mode where we're like, no, the way we interact with the device is we put input in, whether it's a keyboard or a mouse or voice control, and it gives input back either by showing us something or telling us something. And sensory substitution, which they talk about in this vest from Rice, is where the brain doesn't really care where it gets the information from. It just needs the information. So if someone can't hear, they can teach them to essentially hear by interpreting taps on their chest. And that sounds crazy, right? But what if that's the learning curve that you and I as old men are like, oh, I can't do the vest interface. I have to have a screen, and everyone who's under 20 thinks we're crazy and old-fashioned.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And I also think that the cool thing about that video was it just it kind of put in plain words what I'd already suspected, which was this isn't going to be all that different. If that's a thing that takes off and does well, and they come up with a good system for it, and they're successful with their plans, but it's no different than sign language or Braille or learning how to read lips for the deaf, in that they are all extrasensory ways of getting the same information, or as much of it as they can get, and then having the brain process that information.
And there are times when that would be really handy, don't you think?
Oh, very handy. And the way he put it in there, he said the brain just needs the info. Then it can do what the brain does for all of us. It just needs the info. And when your ears aren't working, you're not getting it the quote-unquote traditional/normal way, but these other methods are just bringing you that same information, and now you interpret it. Well, what we're talking about there is a thing that just is would be this natural feeling of like bzz, bzz, bzz. You'd get haptic feedback essentially on your body that would be immediately understandable. You could hear it from wherever you are. You don't have to look at their face and see their hands move or their lips move. Like, this makes a huge difference. If you walk into a room and someone says, Bill, I need you to come outside real quick, you as a deaf person are going to hear that, but not the way we hear it, but you're still going to hear it. You're going to have that information in your head. You're going to know how to respond and when to turn around. People can't come up and surprise you because you couldn't hear their voice. Like, that is a big deal.
Well, and that is a huge deal. And I don't want to minimize the accessibility reason for this, which is why it's being developed. But imagine if that was used on a widespread scale. And suddenly, you want to follow the election results, you want to follow the game play-by-play, you don't have to have a screen out on the table surreptitiously and keep peeking at it. Just have the vest delivering you all the information, and you're sitting there following the conversation, looking people in the eye, paying full attention, except not really, because you're also getting the updates on that double off the wall in the fourth that just put the Mets ahead of the Dodgers 2-1.
Well, and we're getting close to this idea of not even needing this. I mean, we do things with cochlear implants now that are downright groundbreaking. People hearing things for the first time, actually hearing them. I think the closer we get with these technologies, these are more stopgap interface technologies, because there will come a day, I believe very strongly, that a small implant in the right part of the brain, when we know better about what we're doing, could provide a full range of hearing for those who were previously deaf, or full range of sight for those who were previously blind, or lots of accessibility issues like that. For me, where this article gets interesting and where I start to agree wholeheartedly with it is for, let's put it this way. Soon, if their quote was, one day it'll be a blip in history for gadgets that we used a screen to get our notifications, I agree. Because where those are going to come from is haptic feedback on a watch, on some other kind of wearable, in the clothes you're wearing, sounds, either auditory, visual stuff. The Cube is a great example of this. I would like it right now if I had a Cube to tell me I got a notification in Slack, rather than me have to pay attention to some annoying sound on my computer, go across the room, look, oh shoot, it already disappeared, let me open it. Like, there's a lot of reasons to hate computer-based notification systems right now. Phone stuff's not much better. And the idea that these devices would be very specific and say, you can program it to say, blink once blue for email notification, blink 3 times orange if it's a text. You know, you could essentially program your Cube.
What about the other direction? You're an artist. You need to draw. Is there a better way than having to pick up a thing and move your hand around?
Well, again, I don't know that there is a. Well, that's a great question. Because as advanced as we've gotten with visual arts and digital media, and there's doing some amazing things, and there's new products coming out this fall from everybody who even advances that further, and it's all super exciting. But at the end of the day, they have given me a surface to draw on. Literally, Microsoft has given me a surface.
Right.
And you're giving me a pen-like device that I've used since I was a kid. And we've never gotten beyond that for the most part. Yeah, people finger paint, hand paint, and huck paint at walls and do weird sculpture things that they're not used to doing or whatever. But I'm talking about like the standard, like works almost for everyone kind of interface between the human being and the medium they're working on. They have not advanced past that. So that one I feel like just leapfrog straight to brain stuff. There's a lot of neat stuff happening with VR in this regard, though, with creating two-dimensional art in 3D space. A lot of that stuff's been shown off here recently. I forget his first name, but the keen guy from Disney who showed off the Vive doing that kind of work, drawing Ariel. He used to be an animator at Disney. That stuff was genuinely impressive and is a new way to create without having a pen and a surface. So to answer your question, yes, there are new ways coming. But I think at the end of the day, it's always going to involve, until you can tap straight into my brain and then output what I'm thinking, there's always going to have to be an interface between the hand and the page, whatever the page may be. And if they ever supersede that, then you have to ask the question, well, what are artists good for anyway? Because if we can just translate what's on our heads, we're all artists then.
Oh, dude, that's so not true. You assume that because you're an artist. The reason I'm not an artist is I can't imagine the right thing. I can't imagine the things that actual artists create. I'm like, oh, that's really good. I wish I could have thought of that.
See, I would disagree, because sure, I could say, well, I can think of a 3-eyed monkey dinosaur dragon, and here it is, right? And let's say my brain just poops that out on a sheet of paper or digital paper. In your case, you may imagine a really interesting dystopic future.
I just imagine stick figures in it, though.
Maybe it is all run by stick figures, but
it's like Randall Munroe everywhere.
Is your interface between the motor function of drawing and having it translate to something that's aesthetic.
Yeah, and for some people that's it, right? That's just the motor interface.
Right. So I don't know how all that turns out.
I don't know if that's everybody though.
But as a general thing, all of these things don't change too much until it's direct to our minds. And that sounds super sci-fi and way in the future, but I don't think it is.
Ladies and gentlemen, we'd like to introduce you to Apple's mind interface. So folks, listen, if you think, of course there will always be screens, save your emails. You're preaching to the choir. If you're like, you guys missed this amazing idea that could replace this sort of input, especially if it's grounded in reality, right? We can all imagine all kinds of things where we use gesture control and mind interfaces. But if there's something out there that's like, you know what, this could replace a lot of the ways we interact with devices, let us know. Feedback at dailytechnewsshow.com. Our pick of the day from Randy is much more down to earth. He needed some music in a car ride recently, and he had a Galaxy S6, so he started using Samsung Milk Music, which you may have heard of different milk services being sunset in various parts of the world, and they have, but here in North America, Samsung Milk Music's still working. He's submitting this as a daily pick because he says you never hear about it. Spotlight channels had a DJ between songs. Ads were few and far between. I just thought it should get a little attention. So while it still exists, because we don't know how long they'll keep it going, Randy wants you to check out Samsung Milk Music if you have a Samsung device that it's on.
Nice.
Send your picks to us, feedback at dailytechnewsshow.com. You can find my picks at dailytechnewsshow.com/picks. Got a few emails from folks about the Surface when we were talking about form factors, what hybrid form factors are good for. Dwayne in Germany was listening to that discussion on who the convertible is for, and he said, I'm a Surface Pro user. Since Surface Pro 1, it's my meeting note taker, it's my book for my college courses, it's one of my sources of entertainment. I use it for everything. I just spent 2 weeks in a military course, and it was perfect. Downloaded all the PowerPoint slides, took notes over them. The SP3 and the pen make my life simple, and it's funny, I'm seeing them everywhere I go now, whether I'm at work, at a conference, or in class. He says, Scott, I really do think I'm out here living in the real world, and you guys are the niche category where these devices do not work for you. LOL. It's not trying to be insulting. He says Microsoft's report of Surface being a $3 billion business kind of tells you that story, don't you think?
I think that there are probably plenty of Surfaces out there, but there is raw sales data on these things. It's not like
a Surface accounted for $888 million in revenue during Microsoft's last quarter. You can compare that to $6 billion in Mac sales during Apple's last quarter and $4.5 billion in iPad sales. Yeah. The difference is iPad sales are going down, Surface sales are going up right now. There's still a big gap between how many are actually being sold, but one's going in the right direction, the other isn't.
I completely agree. And this is also, and I said this back when the Surface launched, I meant, man, I sure hope Microsoft doesn't abandon this like they do. They sometimes abandon a good idea. They let the Zune dwindle and then fall away. They let their phones fall away. Like they have this reputation, but they're in new hands now. It's a different thinking over there. And I said then, and I say it now, and I really believe it now. They believe in that product, and they're serious about it. And Windows 10 is a huge boon to that product. And everything they're doing seems to be focused on a company that could, in theory, make the Surface a very viable product down the road. It's a slow and steady wins the race, but they are on an upward swing with that thing. I don't have anything bad to say about the current trajectory of the Surface. So I think he's right, and it's going to get even more so that way. But it's not like everyone's got one and we just hadn't heard about it. It's just...
I think that's true.
It's a slow grow, and it's fine. Good.
I think he's very excited about his Surface, and rightly so. Nathan said that I made a statement about Apple coming in to perfect designs. However, when it comes to the current generation, Nathan thinks it's the other way around. Microsoft is the one perfecting the design, and Apple is quickly adapting the software as well now to accommodate these devices. That's the reason Apple followed suit and developed the iPad Pro. You're kind of mixing metaphors there. What Apple thinks it's doing with the iPad Pro is perfecting the design. And because Microsoft was kind of first to market, I don't know if you can call that perfecting the design, but I'll agree with you, Microsoft is doing really good design these days. Nathan also says we don't all live on iOS or Android for tablets, as the Surface device lineup has shown. Agreed that, as you mentioned, that Microsoft needs to bolster the apps available in that tablet mode as Windows 10 continues to gain traction. That should take place. Not that it will, but it should. So good point there. Although, keep in mind, you're talking about market share. We almost all live in Android or iOS. The latest market share shows 33% on iOS in tablets, 62% on Android in tablets. And hold on. I'm looking at 2 years ago. Let me look at 2015. 23% on iOS for tablets, 66% on Android for tablets, 8.4% on Windows for tablets. So it's getting bigger, but it's still kind of small. It's less than 1 out of every 10 people.
Yeah, I agree. And Microsoft's making a device now that I think is pulling away from what a tablet is. It does tablet things. but that is not primarily what you get Surface for anymore. And that Surface RT thing was the example of what I'm talking about. That was a kind of a crappy move. It didn't do well at all. And guess what? There is no Surface RT. That was supposed to be the iPad/Android tablet killer, and it wasn't. So while I really enjoy the direction they're taking, they're definitely taking a slightly different direction. And this sort of hybrid approach seems to be working for them. So all power to them. I'm excited about it.
And then Scott wrote in, different Scott, and said, hey, with Windows 10 getting activated on 110 million devices, how's that affecting the Microsoft Edge browser market share? And we don't really know yet because of the slow rollout of Windows 10, but in August, Microsoft Edge claimed 2.03% of the PC browser share, while Windows 10 at that point was on 75 million PCs. So it doesn't seem to be extending Microsoft's share of the browser market yet, but it's probably just too early to tell. It's a good question, though, because there is that little default trick that Microsoft does, which I hate, where they trick you into changing your default browser to the Surface Edge when you upgrade to Windows 10. So that may gain them some users because the Edge isn't a bad browser. I know a lot of people will probably find out that the default browser changed and changed it right back, but maybe a few won't, and maybe they'll like the Edge.
Well, that's the trick, right? Because if people... Microsoft's position on this is probably if people are getting switched to Edge because they encourage them to switch to it and they don't change back, they're not the kind of people that would care. They just want a browser to work and it's going to be fine. It's Safari and OS 10. It's this for them, and it's it's whatever your default is. A lot of people are happy with defaults. That's the truth. But in this case, there's two things happening here. One, the Edge is a pretty good browser by all accounts. The standards compliant, like all the things everyone complains about with Explorer, seem to be mostly taken care of here. So I feel like this is just prime time for Microsoft to endear people to their products in general, not try to force it down their throats, not try to create monopolies, but say, look, we got this cool browser, and have we told you about our new iOS thing that we put out? And that new Android app we just did, and Cortana's in beta on Android, and like they've got all these hands all spreading out in ways they've never done before, and so I don't see any of that as a problem. The real question is whether Edge takes any kind of leadership quantity role like it did in the old days with Explorer, and I doubt it. I just think we're in a different place now.
And our final email, and I know we're going way long today, folks. Apologies for that. But a couple interesting thoughts from somebody who was listening to Friday's show who's in the know. Said the new pipes are going into Africa, but the price for bringing bandwidth in isn't cheap enough that wholesalers are buying it to bring in large-scale internet. Even the larger internet exchanges' attempts to spur business failed and closed. Those pipes are huge investments, and the people who paid for them want to get all the cream before they open them up to others to start to sell to the masses. A little chicken and egg thing going on, which makes things like Google's Project Link almost essential for making use of these new pipes. Number two, almost all of the internet traffic in Africa goes back to London, of all places, not even southern EU. This makes it very hard to invest in Africa, as most of the networks in each country made a large investment to get back to London and won't cross an international line to pick up bandwidth, but they will go halfway around the world undersea to get it. That's just a structural problem. Terrestrial lines cost a ton. The guys from Namibia told me that it cost them more to go to South Africa than to go to London. This needs to change before we can see pricing go down. Another infrastructure problem. He says, in the end, we have a huge interest in Africa. We just have to figure out how to at least break even there. And the infrastructure isn't there yet to support that yet. So there's a hump to get over there, is what he's saying. It's not like, oh, they plugged in the big undersea cable. Now the bandwidth will just spray over the entire continent for everyone.
Well, we get used to having it so ubiquitous, you forget the kind of challenges they have. But what great perspective this listener has.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, thank you, Scott Johnson, as always, my friend, for joining us. Where can people find more Scott Johnson if they don't already know, which they should?
Frogpants.com. There's always something new happening. There's a new show out these days, a bunch of other stuff happening. They can follow me on Twitter at Scott Johnson, and there was going to be something I was going to say specifically, and I forgot. Oh, I'm getting really close to this book being done that I kickstarted. So if you...
I know. I filled out a survey.
Oh, yeah. Thank you for that. That's actually a big sign that we're...
Yeah.
we're
check your email, folks. Get that shipping address correct.
Check it, because there's some cool upgrades, some cool stuff happening there, and we are getting ready to ship that freaking thing. So, yeah, much going on in my world, but best place to find me and my craziness is on Twitter, at Scott Johnson.
Do you like this show? Are you willing to keep it going? If you're already helping, thank you very much. But if you're not yet... Are you willing to try? Go to dailytechnewsshow.com/support for all the ways to help the show keep going. Our email address is feedback@dailytechnewsshow.com. You can give us a call, 512-59-DAILY. It's 512-593-2459. Listen to the show live Monday through Friday at 4:30 p.m. Eastern at alphageekradio.com and visit our website, dailytechnewsshow.com. Back tomorrow with Tech Republic's editor-in-chief Jason Heiner and Justin Robert Young. Talk to you then.
This show is part of the Frog Pants Network. Get more at frogpants.com.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.
Good show, man.
Yeah, that was great.
It's one of those things where I put in a bunch of emails because I'm like, oh, we got a few phone announcements. We got a pretty nifty discussion, but, we'll make sure we got some good emails at the end. And wow, we got going on a lot of stuff in in a really good way.
I agree. It was really, really good. I felt good about it. And also, you always know when that stuff's good when you don't feel like it went as long as it did.
Right. No, I was kind of shocked. I'm like, oh, crap, 48 minutes. Wow. Look at that.
I hope people appreciate it. But I had a ball. That was awesome.
Some guy's sitting in his driveway, like, my commute's only 40 minutes, guys. Come on.
One of those moments where he can't. Maybe he won't be able to leave until it's over.
Yeah, exactly.
Like NPR.
What do we want to do for titles here? Leading out of the gate is One Number to Ring Them All by BioCow.
I like that.
That's pretty good. Don't hack me, bro. It's just maybe that's just a good safety measure. Look, Ma, no screen. That definitely relates to our main topic.
Yeah, that's not bad.
WARF says Apple has no honor.
We're always someone listens to TMS because we are always talking about how WARF is always saying something doesn't have honor.
I put in the chat room. I put WARF is not a merry man.
That's a good one too.
If Apple appeals. JPEG, no DRM for you. F the DRM, EFF the DRM. Wrinkle in the Cheese, always a classic.
Too bad it has no context. At all.
Know.
Like, makes no sense.
Boy, One Number to Ring Them All is pretty dang good, but
it's pretty good. I mean, it's specific to a smaller.
Look, Mono Screen though is more relevant to the main discussion, and the reason I'm always thinking that way is when you look at our title and description on your phone, it's going to be this title and the description, which is Tom and Scott talk about whether screens are necessary. So sometimes if the title doesn't match the description, it seems like a little disconnect.
Yeah, because they'll think it's a AT&T story about a new service they're rolling out.
Yeah, which it is.
Yeah, so.
Beatmaster always gives me a link to a paste bin with all the links that he's fed into the chat room during the show, and he always has a funny way of presenting them. Today, it's enjoy the selection of links on your anachronistic screen. Won't be needing that for much longer, Tom. Ooh, WARF says Apple has no honor is racing to the top.
Ooh, is it?
Yeah. It's actually almost a three-way tie. Look, Mono Screen is just one behind the other two. Showbot.tv, folks. The levelator's still churning.
Still going. It's kicking. Drop in. Do your thing. Make it happen. I'm shocked how many people didn't know you could reorder the games in your Battle.net.
Oh, I signed up for the beta for Overwatch. We'll see what happens.
People are like, I showed my order, like what games I have on top down to the bottom, and then you can move them. I'm like, yeah, just grab a hold and move it. It's like moving a tab in Chrome or something. So I just move them around. I don't know why they're so surprised. Anyway.
You can do that? Screens everywhere. There's screens blocking up the scenery, breaking up my mind. Nice, Dark Redeemer. Screens everywhere. Screens. Blocking up the
I voted for WARF.
All right, I'm about to make a decision here, folks. I'm putting in ID3 tags right now. Play by play. Wow, it's a runaway now. WARF says Apple has no honor.
It's a good one.
It is a good one.
Pretty good. Yeah, I like that one.
All right.
Has Michael Dorn been in anything else since?
Mostly been in.
I don't know. Look it up on IMDb. I bet he has. He's probably
Mostly-
done video games.
It's mostly blog posts where he's begging somebody at Paramount to make a WARF-based spinoff.
He has been doing that, hasn't he?
Yeah. I would watch it. I mean, don't get me wrong.
He was in one of the fan-made Star Trek episodes.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's cool.
Yeah, I think he was.
Rick.
If it was
Wait a minute, he
good,
was in-
I mean, they got Nichelle Nichols to be in one of those. They got who plays Chekhov? What's his name?
Walter
Koenig. Walter Koenig.
Yeah.
They got him. They got Tim Russ, who played Tuvok on Voyager, to be in one.
that's cool. Yeah, just I would and listen if they said we're making a new Star Trek series and it's TNG timeline and it's Worf in charge, I'd watch that.
Worf in charge.
Worf
I
in
have
charge.
left Deep Space Nine. I am not a merry man.
Worf in charge.
Worf living in Montana with his adopted children,
But he would have to
Bajoran and Cardassian.
Yeah.
So they hate each other.
Yeah. They'd have to be young though, and then older Alexander would come visit.
Yeah, Uncle Alexander.
Oh my gosh, that's a great idea. Worf stuck with his 2 alien grandchildren.
You would need to wear denim.
Worf in charge.
Soccer mom pants.
Ooh, with the elastic.
Oh, wow. That is exciting news. W. Scottus 1 says, Auntie Donna, the creator of Bikey Wars, is going to YouTube Space LA.
Oh, really?
I'll warn Eileen.
Oh my gosh.
He's a bikey man in a bikey gang.
Yeah, that thing, wow. That went viral, didn't it? As viral things go. That's
Oh, yeah. Zippity dee. Was it rippity dee, actually, I think?
Zippity-dee.
Oh, no. It's the boys in blue.
I must have a problem. I purchased a Heroes of the Storm skin while we recorded today.
Wow.
It's only $3. It was on sale, but that's kind of why I did it.
I didn't purchase anything during our recording. But I'm not saying I never have.
Right.
I've been reading comics lately.
Oh,
yeah.
What are you reading?
Well, I caught up on Atomic Robo, which I'm a big fan of. I read Lock and Key, which I finally got around to. I'm reading all the new Star Wars. Princess Leia, Darth Vader, Chewbacca issue 1 came out this week. I've always been caught up on Walking Dead. New issue just came out last night, so I haven't read that one yet. But what else have I been reading?
You're back in hardcore. That's great.
I'm gonna catch up on Why the Last Man. They had a sale, and I was about 3/4 of the way through the series, so I bought all the ones I hadn't read yet. $5 a volume for that. That's pretty good.
Did you read? Have you ever read Gotham Central?
Mm-mm.
You would like that, I think, a lot. It's nothing like the TV show Gotham. It's not even based on it, but it's about the police and the detectives in Gotham Central. It's not a Batman comic, though. It's in that world, and occasionally they bump into him for various reasons.
Okay, interesting.
It's mostly like how these cops deal with the big threats Batman has to deal with, but this is after the corruption scandal, so everything's been cleaned up. Like the station's being run better. Commissioner Gordon's retired now. And they're real good. They're good cops doing their job. It's super good. I love that series. That may be my favorite DC series ever.
Interesting.
Made. And it's older. I think in 2002 it started or something. And then
Gotham Central, you said? Is it still running?
It isn't. It's not. It's not
okay.
running anymore. And I found
when they rebooted the universe, what, twice at this point? No, 3 times.
that I think even DC is crazy with that stuff.
Marvel and DC are both neck and neck for how many times can we just reimagine our universe by saying that everything restarts?
Yep, they totally do that. But that is such a different series, Tom, and it's very noir and very like it's just stuff you like. I think you'll like.
Is it on Earth 75?
Which one are we on?
I don't know.
52. You're at 52.
New in 52.
Oh, need
1.
Council of Ricks will tell us what to do.
Actually, you don't watch The Flash at all, do you?
I haven't yet, but I want to.
Because they did the whole reference to the different multiverse worlds, and it's kind of cool. I would have to say Flash and the Arrow are one of the few comic book series that have made it to the small screen, along with Daredevil, that I feel stays true to the content without necessarily slavishly following everything.
I think they learned a lot when they did Smallville about how to properly, like, you can distance yourself too much with it, which I think what happened with Smallville.
Yeah.
But they also found out there were some successes in distancing yourself and changing stories. And then they seem to have really, especially on Arrow, figured those out. And then Flash got to benefit from Arrow's runs.
Yeah, I feel like Flash has hit the ground. I mean, having not seen
Yeah.
Running.
Got off to a fast start.
Took off like a rocket.
Oh my gosh, Tom! I just realized something. I was sending a reply to Liam O'Brien. He texted me, and this is before the show started. I must have turned on Siri that whole time because there's a huge, like, multi-page paragraph of things we talked about on the show.
Could you put that in our show notes as a transcript? That'd be great. Thanks.
It says that product and everything they're doing seems to be focused on the.
It's only Scott's lines.
Yeah, it's only me.
That's great.
Oh, that's funny.
That
I don't
is
have
funny.
anything bad to say about the current trajectory of the surface. I mean, it actually picked it up really well, and it was like down on my crotch.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now we know the proper placement for Siri for
Or
good.
Yeah, or whose phone not to use when you see me next. Hit my crotch.
Can I borrow? Oh, Scott, never mind.
I gotta get rid of all this. That was funny. It's never happened before. I still can't find the fatty phone. I can't find the Duke anywhere. I'm probably just gonna have to settle and get a 6S. Then I'm just like, well, maybe.
That's what I did with the 6.
Yeah.
I didn't want to fight, and so I just got a 6.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, I've been perfectly happy with it. Eileen looks at it and is like, "Your phone's so small."
Yeah, I guess
because she used a Note, and now she's using a 6S Plus.
Yeah, so she's back to her 5 inches or whatever it is.
Yeah, so she's been on large phones for a while, which is funny because I remember her laughing at like the Note 2 about, oh, this is way too big. Now she's on these huge phones.
Yeah, that's hard to go back, I'm guessing. And since I didn't have a 6, maybe I don't care. Maybe, but then the thing is, if I don't care, maybe I just wait a year.
That's what I don't go every year anymore because they're just. I mean, okay, so I missed out on Siri for a year. I missed out on Touch ID for a year. Now I'm missing out on 3D Touch for a year.
Maybe I'll do that. See, I mean, what's the point otherwise? Like, going to the Duke made sense because I was like, oh, okay, well, it's bigger, so there is a big
Duke.
I can't stop calling it the Duke. I try not to say that all the time, but I do anyway. It's Will Smith's fault. He made me do it.
The Duke.
But, yeah. It's every morning I check, and every morning. Yesterday there was a 64 gig rose gold, and I just couldn't bring myself to do it.
So you can't even order it shipped?
You can, but it's like end of January, or not in January, end of November is the best dates you can get. So that they say the best way to do it is just check the site every morning at 8 o'clock.
But at this point, if you had ordered it a few weeks ago to be shipped,
it would have had
you'd be closing in on that day, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I'd be much closer to.
Yeah.
It's all like it's a comedy of errors for real. It's so stupid.
Well, I hate this. I hate this idea that you have to work hard to give someone money for something.
I know. I mean, I understand this is the whole supply and demand thing, but
yeah,
still bugs me. But then again, maybe I just am fine. I don't know. Maybe I don't need it.
But then there's part of me. It was funny. There was a what was the device that is available for order now, shipping in 4 to 8 weeks. I can't remember whether it was in our show or it was just something I read. But I loved it. Oh, I think it was it might have been the August lock.
Oh.
Where they're like, yeah, we got the new locks. You can order it now. Ships 4 to 8 weeks. Like, yeah, that's the way everything used to be. You didn't have a guaranteed ship date. You didn't all get products on the same day. You didn't line up at stores. You ordered your baseball cards from Renata Galasso, and they shipped in 4 to 8 weeks.
Yeah, it was accepted, and that's how it was, and we're all spoiled now. I mean, Amazon Prime has ruined us.
Yeah.
Made us expect something that we think it's not really for free.
It's going to take more than an hour. Forget it.
Forget it. That's pretty good.
It's not even worth it.
Like last week's after show, by the way, I kept getting emails about the whole week.
Oh, good. That's awesome.
It was some kind of discussion about Star Wars or something.
Oh, yeah.
I don't remember what it was now. Star Trek, maybe?
Yeah. It was something movie related. I think it might have been Star Wars versus Star Trek. Was it?
Sending me email saying,
Okay.
"Dude, that was so funny. You guys
Hey,
should."
I'm gonna log off if you don't mind. Just
Oh,
so I
okay.
can-
Yeah, I'm sorry it's taken so long. I forgot to put in medical minute for the post show, so
No
I had
worries.
to
I just
re-export.
wanted to figure out what's making her really feisty.
Gotcha. Thanks, Roger.
I will see you when see you later, Scott.
You man.
I will see you tomorrow. Star Trek? It was all about Star Trek. W. Scott S1 says.
I forget even what it was. It was so
I
random.
feel like Shatner now. We're like people who listen to the show know more about it than I do.
We read a story about him today where he's yelling at Sulu again for something.
What? You know, I just rewatched the Voyager that Sulu was a guest on.
Oh yeah.
The flashback one where Janeway goes into Tuvok's memories
Yeah.
of him serving aboard the Excelsior.
Oh right. I always thought if there was gonna be a new spinoff, it might have been the Excelsior Sulu thing.
I used to think that back in the day. Yeah, that would have been fun.
Been great.
I bet George Takei would have done that too.
Oh, he's up for it. He'd do it now if you asked him.
I bet he would.
Right time now, but he'd do
Admiral Sulu.
because they had him. Was it Undiscovered Country? He was actually on that ship, captaining it.
Yeah. In fact, that's the period in time that Tuvok flashes back to in the Voyager is the Undiscovered Country movie time period because Sulu's talking about going to try to rescue Kirk and McCoy, which doesn't happen in the movie, but they kind of explain in the Voyager episode why the Excelsior isn't the one to go get him.
Oh, that's interesting. And he's old though because he's a Vulcan, right? That's why he can remember.
Yeah. So in the flashback, he's a very young man. And then he left Starfleet for 50 years after that. And he's super old because Vulcans live forever.
Tim Russ is great.
Yeah, he is. He's really good.
He may embody the Vulcan thing better than any of them, and I might even say better than Spock in some ways.
Well, it's interesting because they gave Leonard Nimoy the out of being half human, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he also was inventing the role, so he had to play around with it more. Whereas Tim Russ came in like there'd been a lot of work on what a Vulcan was.
Yeah.
And I think you're right. I think he nailed it. Garrett Wang was fantastic too. Also, I've met him thankfully a couple times because he's friends with Veronica.
Oh, really?
And just a fantastic guy as well.
What's he doing? Is he doing anything cool? Probably just.
He does a lot of cons. That's how Veronica and him met.
Yeah, that whole crew. They were always at those things. That's where I saw. Was it in Vegas? Yeah, it was. I think of his name now. Quark, the guy who played Quark, and the principal on Buffy.
Armin Shimmerman.
That's the guy, and he did not look like he wanted to be there. He looked real grumpy, but hey, there's money in that, I guess.
Yep.
That was the one where I shook.
Maybe that'll be us.
Yeah,
podcasts will finally be so big.
We'll be like the traveling. Oh man,
the grandpas of podcasting.
Oh my gosh, I don't like the sound of any of that.
We travel by train.
Yep, it's brilliant. Bunked together in some train,
from town to town.
Hello, Minnesota.
Yeah, because Justin Robert Young has gotten rich and purchased a train that he lives on and invites his friends to come and.
Well, then I'm all in. Then
ride around the country with him.
I'm all in.
Brian Brushwood lands his space jet from time to time.
Yep.
To join us
once in a while. He'll remember where he comes from. Those kids, those wacky kids. Well, he's not much younger than us, but now that I mention it.
All right. I am almost done editing this show. It's one of those days where things just take longer. And I got a guest, and that usually happens because I have something scheduled right after DTNS, which I do today with Nate Langson.
Oh, yeah?
He wants me to be interviewed for this show he's doing.
Oh, is it anything he can talk about, or is it anything new? What is it?
I think it's just his Bloomberg stuff.
Okay.
But it could be his independent podcast.
I like Nate.
Nate's great.
Yeah, Nate is great. He's got the whole world on a plate.
So say we ate.
So say we ate. There's 8 people. Yeah.
Oh crap! And now I forgot clip off the OK Google part of the beginning of the show, so all the Android people are going to hate me. Oh well.
A link.
That's fine. You can hate me.
Tom can take it. The skin
You
is
wouldn't be the first. Okay. I think I've published this show. Thanks everybody for watching.
Nice job, everybody.
We'll talk to you tomorrow.
Yeah.